everybody, and welcome back to the Girly Girl Bookworm. So today I have for you my second half of January wrap-up. The month is technically not over, but I just have a weird feeling that I don't know if I'll be making it to the end of the month. So today is the 26th, and I figured I would just update you as far as I could, and then I will just update you on the rest at some point. We'll see. So the first book that I read in the second half of January is The Appeal by Janice Hallett. So this book came out in the UK originally, and it was just recently published in the US. I have the UK copy. This is a story about a murder case, kind of, where we are following these two. I think they're kind of like lawyer-to-bes or like cop-to-bes, and they are handed all these files to kind of figure out what really happened in this murder case. And we are following basically no regular prose. All of this is told in mixed media with emails and like flyers and things between the characters. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. I didn't see the ending coming. I just thought it was really fun and an interactive way of trying to solve a mystery thriller novel. So I'm excited that I picked it up, and I gave this one 4 stars. Then I listened to My Darling Husband by Kimberly Bell. I originally pre-ordered this book, and I think the paperback doesn't come out till March, but Hoopla had the audiobook ready to go, so I was like, might as well listen to it instead. So I borrowed it from Hoopla, and I gave this one 4 stars. We're following this woman who comes home one day, and she's married to this like very, 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 very famous chef, and he has been doing his thing, and she ends up with an in-home invader who holds her and her children hostage, and she calls her husband to try to get him to get the ransom money, and secrets and things start to be revealed that he might not be as great as we think he is. And again, this was one that I could not stop listening to. I listened to it all in one day because I just could not wait to find out what was happening. I gave it 4 stars. It did have a bunch of narrators, so there was a voice for each character, and I love when authors are able to do that for their audiobooks. So I really enjoyed this one, and I gave this one 4 stars. Then I read Shiver by Allie Reynolds. I read this one on a day where my husband had a snow day, and so I was like, it's cold, it's perfect timing to read this book, so I picked this one up. We were following a bunch of athletes. They were all snowboarders. They are coming back to this chalet in the Alps, and we know that there was a problem in their past where one of their friends was dead, and now we're kind of re-looking at what happened. So it's kind of like One by One meets In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. So I could not put this book down. I really, really enjoyed this one. I'm glad that I picked it up, and I gave this one 4 stars. And if you're looking for a nice wintry, snowy type of book, this one will be definitely for you. Then I listened to Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, and I am not a fan. We are following this character who is moving in with her brother, and she kind of ends up falling into this friends with benefits situation with one of his neighbors, and we are also following that neighbor's past from 6 years prior. And I didn't love this one. I felt like this one, well, the ending was kind of predictable. I kind of guessed why he was as hardened as he was, but I just everything felt so superficial and fake. I didn't understand why our main character was so obsessed with this neighbor and actually wanted to have a real relationship, because I never even really got their friend vibes from each other. So that kind of was bothersome. And then his storyline just felt like a really obsessive teenager, which bordered on the line of creepy versus I think it was the way they wrote him and his love that that relationship even felt cringy. So it didn't do it for me. I ended up giving it 3 stars. Then another 3-star read was The Plot by Jean Hanff Korelitz. So I was hesitant about picking this book up in the first place because I've already DNF'd another book by this author, but I had always been intrigued. And then I had 2 family friends around Christmas time talking about how really great it was, and it was one of their favorite things that they read last year. And I was like, maybe I'll give it a try then. And I got it at the 50% off sale at Barnes & Noble, and I really should have just left it there. We're following an author who had a critically acclaimed, like, first novel, and then he never was able to really get anything going with his second novel. And one day he is teaching this, like, summer camp to this, like, author retreat thing. And he ends up hearing, like, the plot of a lifetime by this guy. And years go by, and, like, this book has never been published, and he starts to wonder what's going on. So he looks into it, and he finds out that the man who had this amazing plot has passed away. So he never wrote this book. So he's like, I'm going to take that plot, and I'm going to write it then. So he writes it, gets all these accolades for it, and then he starts getting these threatening letters that are like, I know you stole that. You stole it. And it was okay. It's very wordy by the ending. You kind of figure it out. It, like, had this, like, could have been a jaw-dropping moment, but then it just kind of, like, wasn't, and kind of fizzled out. And it was just okay. I gave it 3 stars. It's all right. Then I decided to listen to Infinite Country by Patricia Engel. This was a, like, 5-hour audiobook, so by listening on my speed, I, like, finished it in, like, 2 hours. Like, it was, like, nothing, because it's super duper short. I've been super intimidated by this book because I had heard great things, but I had also heard really bad things. But I think this book was actually a really important read. We're following a family who is kind of being, like, torn apart with having to, like, they come to America, and then the husband gets deported, and she's trying to raise her family, and she kind of wants to go back to her country, but she also is like, I don't know anything there anymore, but I, like, want the stability of being here, but I also don't really have stability here. And just this working about being an immigrant and trying to make it work and how hard it can be. And I thought it was a really important story. I think I would have liked it to be a little more fleshed out and a little bit longer. We also change perspectives quite often, and it doesn't always tell you that it's changing perspective. So you had to be, like, listening to be like, oh, this is one of the kids talking now. Oh, this is the husband talking now. So, like, I think that I would have liked it to at least, like, have different chapter headings or a different narrator or something, just to show that somebody else was talking. But other than that, I really enjoyed this one, and I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Homicide and Halo. This comes out in the beginning of February. I got this through Netgalley. This is the second book to Arsenic and Adobo, which I loved that book. I really enjoyed Arsenic and Adobo. And this one just kind of, not that it didn't do what the first one did for me. The first one was like a huge page turn, and I couldn't put it down. This one was still good. We're following the same main character. We're following the same small town. We're picking up right where the last one left off. We're following a different mysteries. There's something going on around a beauty pageant this time. And I really loved the family element, the description of food, the friendship environment, the fact that there was a mystery, the small town. Like, I loved all that. It just, I felt like I wanted something more out of it. So I still really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, but I will say that the first book was my favorite by far. And then I read The Air He Breathes by Brittany C. Cherry. This was kindly sent to me around my birthday. And this is the first book in the Elements series, and I read this through Kindle Unlimited because, like I said, I've been reading a lot of Kindle books lately. It's just been the easier platform to read on. We are following this woman who moves back to town after leaving for a while after losing her husband. And she ends up kind of falling for her broody neighbor who is also grieving a loss of his wife and his daughter. And they are kind of this unlikely pair where people are like, don't get with him. He's not nice. Like, he's a monster. And, like, she really sees the other side of him. And I really enjoyed this one, and I gave this one 5 stars. The ending was, like, crazy. So it kind of takes a spin off of, it's not just this classic romance novel. It kind of takes it really a lot deeper than that. And I gave this one 5 stars. Then I read A Nearly Normal Family by M.T. Edwardson. This has been on my shelf for a very long time. I got this one, I think, back in June of 2019. This one I've been having my eye on where I'm like, do I read it? Do I not read it? I don't know. And then I found it on Libby as a Kindle book, and I was like, I'm going to try it. Why not? And we're following this family, and this is kind of cut into 3 chunks. We're following the dad's perspective of what's happening, the daughter's perspective of what's happening, and then the wife's perspective of what's happening. And we are realizing that there is a murder that has gone down, and the daughter is being accused of it, and kind of how far will parents go to protect their child. And I gave it 3 stars. It was very engrossing. The chapters are really short, so it reads really, really quickly. But at the end, it just kind of fell a little flat for me, and I just didn't really care. So I ended up giving it 3 stars. Then I just finished today listening to The Star Daughter by Sveta Thakrar. I can't pronounce that. Like I said earlier in my other video, if you haven't seen my first half of January, I've been really working really hard on getting all my Book of the Month books knocked out. And this is one that was always like a book that intimidated me because I'm not a big fantasy reader, so I decided to listen to it on audio through Hoopla. And I'm so glad that I listened to it. It just was a really fun story. We're following a girl. She's half star. She knows her mother is a star, and her mother has not lived with her in a really long time. And she's kind of coming into her powers, and she's liking this boy. And then one day her powers kind of go awry, and she ends up hurting her father. And she knows that she needs the blood of a star in order to save him. So she goes up to Starland, and she goes up to save her father by getting her mother's blood. But then she ends up in this like competition for the throne, and like things end up happening. And I thought it was a lot of fun, and I gave it 4 stars, and I'm glad that I actually got to it. And I think that listening to it made it a really fun experience. So I'm glad that I decided to take it in that way. And then I'm currently reading 3 books right now. I'm in the middle of Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I'm reading this one as a Kindle book. This is her most recent release. We are following a woman who is coming back home to this town after being released from prison from killing her like boyfriend at the time. And she's kind of coming back to this town because her daughter, who she's never even gotten to meet because she was in prison when she delivered, she's kind of trying to come back so that way she can kind of see her daughter and meet her daughter. And we're also following the perspective of the man who is now passed on. We're following his best friend and their kind of entanglement kind of thing. And I've heard it's super emotional. I'm really excited to get to the ending. If it is as emotional as I think it's going to be, I think this is going to be a 5 star. So fingers crossed. Then I'm also reading Who is Maud Dixon by Alexandra Andrews. Now, this is a book that I borrowed from my library. Who am I? I don't know. This book, I was like really nervous that the writing style was not going to be for me, so I decided to pick it up this way, just in case I didn't like it. And I am actually, so it's weird. So I started off really, really enjoying it. We're following a woman who is working at a publishing company, and there's this Maud Dixon who is a really famous author. And nobody knows who that person is. It's a pen name, but nobody knows who this Maud Dixon is. And I really was liking it, but I think the problem is I read the synopsis, and a lot of what happens in the synopsis doesn't happen for a while. Like, I'm already 100 and something pages in, 106 pages in. And one of the biggest, like, events that, like, the synopsis is talking about hasn't happened yet. So I feel like I'm just, like, waiting for it to happen. So I have a feeling this could potentially be a 4-star read. But if I don't get re-engaged into it very soon, it could potentially turn to a 3-star. So we'll see. I'm not going to tell you what I'm talking about in the synopsis just because, like I said, I feel like it's ruining it for me. So I'd hate to ruin it for somebody else. But it's interesting so far. Then I'm listening to The Knockout Queen by Rufi Thorpe. I'm not very far into this. I think I'm like 10% in. We're following a boy and his relationship/friendship with one of his friends, like the girl like that lives next door. She's kind of like this tall, blonde, beautiful girl, and he is totally like the opposite. He's got piercings, he's gay, and I believe they end up kind of having this friendship. Again, like I said, I'm not too far in, so I'm not fully 100% positive, but we'll see how that goes. I'm listening to this one on audio as well. So yeah, that's what I've been reading this part of January. We'll see if baby boy decides to come at the end of January, because I've definitely been feeling some pains today, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully I will be back very soon and I can update you on the rest of January in my February wrap up. So I will see you then. Bye, everybody.